Did you hear that China suddenly halted all Boeing jet deliveries? This news isn't just limited to the aviation industry. Behind it lies a deep economic and geopolitical game that could shake the entire world. What exactly happened that made China take such a big step? Let's uncover this mystery step by step. Imagine a world where giant aircraft soaring through the skies suddenly come to a halt at the border of a nation. That's exactly what has happened between China and Boeing. A single decision that has shocked the entire world. It all begins with the trade war between the United States and China, which has now gone beyond numbers and policies. It's at the heart of the global economy and geopolitics. The US recently imposed massive tariffs of up to 145% on Chinese goods. Why? According to the US government, this move is aimed at correcting the trade imbalance that has created a deep divide between the two nations over the years. In addition, it's meant to hold China accountable for issues like fentanyl trafficking and intellectual property theft. This tariff isn't just a policy, it's a message. The United States is no longer willing to bend. But China isn't a country that quietly backs down. In response, it imposed a 125% tariff on American goods. The result? Prices of products from American giants like Boeing began to skyrocket. Boeing jets, already costing millions, have now become so expensive for Chinese airlines that buying them seems nearly impossible. And this is no small matter. Think about it. China isn't just a market for Boeing, it's a big dream. In 2018, nearly 1/4 of Boeing's deliveries, about 25% of its aircraft, went to China. And that was just the beginning. Experts estimate that over the next 2 decades, 20% of the global demand for aircraft will come from China alone. This means the Chinese market is not only a goldmine for Boeing, but also for its European rival, Airbus. This clash is not just a story of 2 countries or 2 companies. It's a battle that could impact global supply chains, jobs, and even the price of your plane tickets. When a brand like Boeing is targeted, it's not just the company that suffers. It's a story of thousands of workers, their families, and the small and large businesses that thrive around it. But is it only America's fault? Or is China equally a player in this game? On one hand, the US claims it's protecting its industries and innovation, while on the other, China says it's defending its own interests. In the middle of it all, players like Boeing and Chinese airlines have become pawns on this geopolitical chessboard. And the story doesn't stop here. What if this trade war deepens further? Will Boeing find another path forward? Or will China bring its own aircraft company, Comac, to the world stage and win the game? These questions matter not just for the US and China, but also for countries like India, which are seeking new opportunities amid this tension. Let's dive into the moment when China suddenly put the brakes on Boeing Jets' deliveries. This is no minor decision, but a move that has shaken the very foundation of global trade. This story is not just about airplanes. It's about power, strategy, and the race for the future. Here's what happened. China gave a clear order to its biggest airlines, Air China, China Eastern, and China Southern, telling them, no more deliveries of Boeing jets. These are the airlines that had orders for 45, 53, and 81 Boeing aircraft scheduled from 2025 to 2027. Imagine, hundreds of billions in deals came to a sudden halt. But this was just the beginning. China also locked up purchases of aircraft parts and equipment from American companies. What does that mean? The Boeing jets already stationed at Chinese airports now face expensive and difficult maintenance. Finding alternative suppliers isn't a walk in the park. It's a battle of time, money, and resources. But wait, China didn't leave its airlines completely in the dark. It plans to help those companies that lease Boeing jets. That means government support might be provided to ease the growing costs. This shows that China's aim isn't just to hurt America, but also to cleverly protect its own interests. This move feels more like a geopolitical maneuver than an economic one. China wants to send a clear message. It will not bend to American pressure. It's hitting multiple targets with one stone, responding to the US, showing its people that it's not weak, and most importantly, giving a push to its own aircraft company, COMAC. The COMAC C919 aircraft may not yet rival Boeing or Airbus, but moves like this can certainly serve as stepping stones to bring it onto the global stage. This move sends a message, not just to Washington, but to the entire world. China is saying, we're not just buyers, we can also be producers. But is it really that simple? Removing Boeing from the equation could be risky for Chinese airlines as well. New suppliers, new technology, and new challenges. Can China handle all of this? And what if this war escalates further? These are questions echoing not just in Beijing and Seattle, but in every country involved in this global game. Boeing, a name that symbolizes the heights of aviation, is now caught in a turbulent battle, where every step is questioned. Can this American giant recover from this blow? When China stopped the delivery of Boeing jets, it wasn't just a hit for one company, but a significant blow to the core of global aviation. This decision has shaken Boeing's world. Let's talk about the financial loss first. When the news reached the market, Boeing's shares dropped by 2 or 3%. That's no small setback. China, which accounted for a quarter of Boeing's deliveries, has now become a closed door. Hundreds of aircraft orders were halted, meaning billions of dollars in revenue are at risk. This isn't just about money for Boeing, it's about trust and the future. But is this the first time Boeing has been burned by the fire? No. This company has weathered storms before. In 2024, an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9 experienced a mid-air panel blowout, a disaster that made headlines globally and raised questions about Boeing's credibility. Then, in 2019, China grounded the 737 MAX for safety reasons. Back then, Boeing suffered heavy losses. Today, the situation is even more complicated, with worker strikes, supply chain tangles, and the pressure of regulatory scrutiny. These challenges are like walking on a tightrope for Boeing. And now, China's move has made that rope even shakier. Still, it's not all dark. Boeing has a strong order book, with emerging markets like India offering new hope, where Air India, for example, recently received deliveries. But the threat is not limited to China. Europe's Airbus has already established its roots in the Chinese market. If Chinese airlines now turn to Airbus, Boeing could suffer significant damage to both its market share and reputation. And then there's COMAC, China's own C919, which, though still in its early stages, could become a major headache for both Boeing and Airbus in the future. This is not just a battle for today, it's a race that will continue for decades to come. The question for Boeing is, will it weather this storm and save its wings, or will this be its final flight? The eyes of the world are on this. When China locked the doors on Boeing Jets' deliveries, it wasn't just a simple decision. It was a move that grabbed the attention of the global stage. This story is not just about planes. It's about power, ambition, and the race for the future, where China wants to be not just a player, but the creator of the game. To understand the strategy behind this move, we need to dive into Beijing's mindset. First, this is a masterstroke of economic pressure. Boeing is no small company. It's a symbol of American pride, with thousands of jobs and a multi-billion-dollar economy dependent on its wings. By targeting Boeing, China has struck directly at the heart of the US. This message is clear. If you harm our trade, we will respond in the same language. But is this just a retaliatory action? No, it's much bigger than that. China wants to take its homegrown aircraft company COMAC to the skies. While the COMAC C919 may not yet have the same power as Boeing or Airbus, this move could give it a strong platform in both domestic and global markets. Imagine if Chinese airlines now turn to COMAC instead of Boeing. This would not only be an economic victory, but also a geopolitical statement. China wants to show that it's not just a buyer, it's a maker too. And in this game, it's supported by Europe's Airbus, which has already established deep roots in China. Airbus's assembly line in Tianjin and its growing ties with Chinese airlines, these are all warning bells for Boeing. China's move is not just limited to airplanes. Recently, it also imposed a ban on the export of rare earth elements, materials essential for everything from missiles to electric cars. These are calculated steps that signal to the world that China might no longer be just a part of the global supply chain, but could control it. But is this path really that easy? COMAC still has a long technical and reliability battle to fight. And if this trade war escalates, won't Chinese airlines find themselves tangled in the complications of their own making? These questions are echoing from Beijing to New York. China's strategy is a sword, one that could harm its enemies, but if it goes wrong, it might wound itself as well. The story now takes a new turn, where both the US and China stand face to face with their strengths and weaknesses. China's suspension of Boeing jet deliveries is not just a single step. It's part of a larger battle that hides deep logic and stubbornness on both sides. Let's look at the picture from both perspectives, like two wrestlers in a match, each claiming victory, but with much more at stake in the ring. First, let's talk about the US-Washington claims that the 145% tariff on Chinese goods is not a whim, but a necessary step. Why? Because for years, the trade balance has been tilted in China's favor. The US argues that China dumps cheap goods, steals intellectual property, and unfairly subsidizes its industries. The tariff's purpose is to revive American factories, save jobs, and hold China accountable for issues like fentanyl. Attacking a brand like Boeing is not just an economic blow to the US, it's a blow to its pride, as Boeing is the backbone of thousands of families and small businesses. But is the US move as righteous as it seems? Every coin has two sides. The tariffs are also causing American consumers to dig deeper into their pockets. Expensive goods, costly flights, and disruptions in the supply chain. This is a risky bet that could either pay off or backfire on the US itself. Now, let's look at China's side. Beijing argues that the US tariffs are not only unjust, but also violate World Trade Organization rules. By suspending Boeing deliveries, China has responded, not just economically, but geopolitically. It wants to show that it's not weak, but is an equal player on the global stage. However, there is a risk in this move. Chinese airlines will now be looking for new suppliers, Airbus or perhaps COMAC. But this shift will come at a heavy cost of time and money. If there's a shortage of planes, ticket prices will rise, and Chinese passengers will bear the brunt of it. This confrontation is not just a conflict between two nations. It is a drama where both sides are struggling to protect their interests. The United States wants to rejuvenate its economy, while China is focused on its sovereignty and indigenous dreams. Both arguments are strong, but both steps are filled with risks. The question is, will this war end with the victory of one, or will both be doomed? The world's eyes are on this. Now, the scope of this story expands. It is not just a confrontation between the United States and China, but a storm that could engulf the entire world. When China stopped Boeing jet deliveries, its waves spread from Seattle and Beijing to every country where airplanes fly, where factories operate, and where people dream. This is a game whose impact is not limited to the aviation world. It touches trade, employment, and even the price of your air tickets. Let's take a closer look at this global whirlpool, where every angle raises a new question, and every answer sparks a new hope. First, let's focus on the aviation industry. The halt in Boeing deliveries has caused turmoil in the supply chain. European airlines like Ryanair have warned that tariffs and delays could derail their plans. If airplanes don't arrive on time, there will be fewer flights, higher ticket prices, and passengers will suffer. This is not just an issue for the rich. Every person who flies for vacations, work, or family visits will bear the brunt. But this storm will not stop at airports. Analysts say that if this trade war deepens, $650 billion worth of trade between the US and China could come to a halt. Imagine factories shutting down, stores empty, and jobs at risk. This is not just a fight between two nations. It is a matter of the global economy's survival. consumers will not remain unaffected by this war either. The impact of tariffs will make goods more expensive, whether it's the chip in your phone or the engine in an airplane. Airlines will pass on their increased costs in ticket prices, and this burden will ultimately fall on your pocket. But every crisis also hides an opportunity. Countries like India, where the aviation market is rapidly growing, could seize this moment. The recent delivery to Air India is proof of this. India could not only become a new market for Boeing, but also a battlefield for Airbus and Comac. This is an opportunity where emerging nations can showcase their strength. This war is not just about today. It is laying the foundation for the coming decades. Will global trade return to normal, or will this confrontation divide us into separate camps? This is a question not only for economists, but for every person who is a part of this world. Now the moment has arrived when the entire world holds its breath, asking, what next? By halting Boeing jet deliveries, China has made a strategic move that not only shocked the United States, but also created a new suspense on the global stage. This story is no longer just about planes or tariffs. It is about a future path where every step could bring a new twist. Let's look at this foggy road and see what the next chapter in this confrontation could be. This is a drama where no one knows for sure what the next card will reveal. First, let's talk about the possibility of talks. Will the US and China resolve this tension by sitting down at the negotiation table? It's possible, but not easy. Recently, the US leadership suggested shutting down some dialogues, which has further escalated the situation. Still, history shows that when economic stakes are high, doors are rarely completely shut. If both nations begin trade talks, Boeing deliveries could get back on track. But if stubbornness persists, the conflict could stretch longer. So, what about Boeing's strategy? This company is no rookie. If China shuts its door, Boeing could quickly shift its focus to emerging markets like India and the Middle East. The recent delivery to Air India is a sign of this. Moreover, Boeing can strengthen its supply chain to avoid such shocks in the future. But this path is thorny. Establishing a foothold in new markets requires time and resources. China's next move could be even more interesting. It will likely push forward with Comac's C919 to rival Boeing and Airbus. Additionally, its relationship with Airbus may grow stronger, as Airbus is already gaining a foothold in China. But China's biggest weapon is rare earths, the elements without which missiles, smartphones, and electric cars are incomplete. If China becomes more aggressive on this front, global industries could tremble. Then there's the World Trade Organization, which might attempt to mediate this dispute. However, when two superpowers face off, the rulebook often collects dust. This war may not end, but rather take on a new form. Perhaps new alliances, new markets, or new challenges. This is a question whose answer only time will provide. As we reach the final stages of this story, one question resonates in every heart. Does this war truly show us the whole truth? Or are we only seeing half of it? China stopped Boeing jet deliveries, the US raised tariffs, and the world watches this spectacle. But truth has many shades, and it is crucial to view it impartially. This is not just a trade war. It is a chessboard where every move hides intentions, risks, and half-truths that force us to think. Let's clear this picture and see what the truth is that everyone should know. First, let's examine the mistakes of both sides. The US argues that its tariffs are meant to protect its industries and jobs. But that's only part of the truth. These tariffs are burdening American consumers. More expensive goods, higher flight prices, and a tangled supply chain. Is this really a victory, or a move that could entangle itself? On the other hand, China's ban on Boeing showcases its strength, but it is also creating difficulties for itself. Chinese airlines now have to look for new planes and parts, which demand significant time and money. What if Comac fails to deliver on time? This is a risky bet, one that could result in as much loss as gain. Then there's the matter of information. Most of the news we're receiving comes from Western sources like Reuters and Bloomberg. China has not spoken openly on this issue. Are we seeing the full picture? Probably not. Beijing might have its own constraints, or another strategy that's yet to be revealed. We must be cautious because half the truth is neither entirely a lie nor the full truth. Finally, we must wait for time. This conflict could be temporary. Perhaps in a few months, talks will begin, and Boeing planes will land again in China. Or it could turn into a long tug of war, with both nations sticking to their positions. The truth is, the US and China are so interdependent that complete decoupling is not easy. This is a tense dance, where both are trying to synchronize their steps, but one wrong move could ruin everything. So friends, this was the full story of the China and Boeing showdown, a drama where trade, power, and the future of aviation are all on the line. This isn't just about planes. It's the story of a world where every step, every decision could lead to a new path or stir up a fresh storm. The tug of war between America and China teaches us that no conflict is just about winning or losing. Behind it lie risks, dreams, and truths that time slowly reveals. The end of this story is still unwritten. Will there be talks? Will new markets emerge? Or will this conflict deepen? These questions are just as important for you as they are for me. If you enjoyed this depth, this enthusiasm, and this truth, then stay with me for more interesting, unbiased, and compelling stories. Don't forget to subscribe to Vertex News Network. I'll keep bringing you every new update, every fresh analysis, so you don't just watch the world, but understand it too. So, subscribe now and become a part of this journey. After all, the world's stories are incomplete without you.